When the eviction notice showed up, crooked, on the apartment door, Lucas and Mia stepped inside for what they both knew was the last time, even if no one said it out loud. The place smelled like cold coffee, old dust, and something else they couldn't quite name, like the faint echo of a life that had already slipped away, leaving only outlines behind where real moments used to be. Their parents' coats still hung on the hook by the door, stiff and empty, waiting for shoulders that were never coming back. And for a second, Lucas just stood there with his backpack slung over one shoulder, trying to look steady and responsible, when inside he felt like glass that had already shattered, swept up, and quietly thrown away. He was only 13, but in that moment he felt 100 years old. 8-year-old Mia clutched her stuffed rabbit so tightly her knuckles went white, her wide eyes full of confusion and a quiet kind of fear that had no words big enough to hold it. "Where are we going to sleep tonight?" she whispered.
We'll figure it out.
Lucas swallowed hard, forcing his mouth into something that looked like a smile. "We'll figure it out," he said, even though he had no idea how. Beside them, their dog, Bear, stood in the doorway, shaggy fur matted from nights spent in cold places, amber eyes alert and strangely knowing. He hadn't left their side since the night their parents didn't come home, like he understood something the world kept trying to take away. That family wasn't made of walls. It was made of staying. They packed the last pieces of their old life into one worn-out bag, a few clothes, a photo of Mom and Dad, some crackers from the cupboard. Everything else stayed behind, abandoned like a chapter torn out of a book. Outside, the city moved around them without looking up. Cars rolled past, people hurried by, windows glowed with other people's dinners and other people's lives. No one noticed 2 kids and a dog slipping quietly out of a place that wasn't theirs anymore. They walked until the streets thinned, buildings turned to trees, and the familiar noise of traffic faded into the distant hush of wind and branches. That's when Bear started pulling on the leash, his body tense, nose pointed toward the dark outline of the mountains in the distance. "Easy, boy," Lucas muttered, but Bear kept tugging, not wild or playful, just insistent, his tail low, his ears forward, his whole body humming with a quiet urgency. Mia looked up at her brother. "Maybe he knows something," she said softly. Lucas didn't believe in signs, miracles, or magic dogs. But that night, with nowhere else to go, he decided to believe in Bear. The last of the streetlights disappeared behind them as they stepped into the forest. The air grew cooler and damp, filling with the smell of pine and earth. Each step carried them further from everything they knew and deeper into a world that felt ancient and alive in a way city nights never did. Leaves crunched under their shoes, and every now and then a branch snapped somewhere in the dark, making Mia flinch and Lucas straighten a little taller. Bear moved ahead of them, guiding more than wandering, stopping now and then to sniff the ground before changing direction, like he was following a map only he could see. "You sure he's not just chasing squirrels?" Lucas asked, trying to sound annoyed instead of scared. "He's different," Mia whispered. "Look at him." She was right. Bear wasn't curious. He was focused. The trail began to climb, curving between tall pines and thick underbrush. The higher they went, the colder it became, their breath turning to pale clouds in the dim light. Mia's jacket was too thin, and soon she was shivering, her steps growing slower. "I'm cold," she murmured. Lucas knelt so they were eye level, even though worry was tightening around his chest like a knot. "We'll find somewhere," he promised. "I won't let anything happen to you." Before she could answer, Bear froze. His ears shot up, his muscles went stiff, and a low rumble formed deep in his chest. Lucas followed his gaze, but saw nothing except dirt and trees. Bear stepped forward, then hesitated, pulling them slightly to the side, nudging them away from a patch of ground that looked completely normal. A moment later, the earth where they'd almost walked crumbled in on itself, silent and deadly, a shallow section collapsing into a narrow, hidden sink that might have taken Mia's leg, or worse, without a sound. Mia gasped and grabbed Lucas's arm. He just saved us. Lucas stared at the hole, heart pounding. Bear didn't look proud. He just turned and kept walking, as if this was simply what you did for the people you loved. The trail grew steeper, their legs burning, their hands numb. Then, through the trees, Lucas saw something that didn't belong. A strange shape, half hidden by rock and earth. At first it looked like another hill, but as they got closer, he realized it was a building. Part of it buried in the mountainside, its wooden beams blended into stone, like someone had tried to hide it and protect it at the same time. "What is that?" Mia breathed. Bear went straight to the heavy wooden door and sat down, calm and certain, like a guard finally home from patrol. Lucas felt a shiver that had nothing to do with the cold. "Guess this is where you wanted to go," he said quietly. For the first time all night, Bear's body relaxed. The door didn't groan when Lucas pushed it open. No cloud of dust burst out, no smell of rot or mold. It swung inward on well-oiled hinges, smooth and silent, and a faint, steady warmth drifted out to meet them. Not cozy like a lit fireplace, but solid and stable, like a room that refused to let the cold win. Inside, the walls were packed earth and dark wood, smooth in some places, rough in others, carved and reinforced with careful hands. Narrow windows let in soft gray light. The air felt dry and balanced, not damp, not drafty, just right. "This place is weird," Lucas muttered, then added, "in a good way." Bear patted across the stone floor, not sniffing randomly, but checking corners, listening. When he reached a passage that sloped downward, the warmth vanished, replaced by a thin, creeping chill. Bear's ears flattened. He backed away from the shadowed lower level with a quiet growl and went to a middle room instead, lying down with his side against an inner wall where the air felt neither hot nor freezing, just comfortably in between. Lucas noticed that the deeper corridors felt wrong, like they were pulling heat away, while the spot Bear chose felt balanced, like a center point. "It's like he's picking the safest place," Lucas whispered. They explored carefully. Shelves were carved into the walls, holding rusted tools that were arranged neatly, not scattered as if someone had fled. A sturdy wooden table stood in the center of one room, worn smooth by years of use. On one shelf, Lucas found rolled papers tied with brittle twine, blueprints and drawings of the house, lines and notes showing vents, channels, and strange pathways built inside the walls, as if the house were less a building and more a machine designed to work with the mountain, not against it. Mia discovered a small leather journal tucked into a narrow recess. Inside were sketches, diagrams, and short, precise entries written in a familiar last name, their grandfather's. They barely remembered him. A voice on the phone once, a kind face in a fading photograph. But there he was on the page, explaining how he had built the house into the mountain to keep it stable, to give their family a place that could stand when everything else fell apart. "He made this for us," Mia whispered. Lucas swallowed, feeling something like roots slowly pushing down through his fear. Maybe for more than just us. Outside, a low mechanical hum grew slowly louder, riding on the wind, a sound that didn't belong in a forest. Drilling, grinding, something cutting into the earth. Bear's head snapped up. his ears sharp, his body tense, eyes fixed on the direction of the noise. Lucas stepped outside and looked down toward the valley. He could just make out pale clouds of dust drifting up from beyond the ridge. "They're drilling," he muttered. Over the next days, the sound grew stronger. When they walked around the property, Bear's behavior changed again. He refused certain paths, planting his paws and pulling them back whenever the ground felt wrong beneath his paws. Spots that looked solid made him uneasy, and each time he forced them away, a faint vibration shivered through the soil moments later, like the earth sighing under some new invisible weight. One afternoon, while they were gathering wood near a slope, Bear lunged forward and grabbed Lucas's jacket, yanking him backward with surprising strength. Lucas stumbled, annoyed, right as the ground where he'd been standing fractured and slid away in a slow, terrifying slide of dirt and rock spilling downhill. Mia screamed. Bear stepped between them and the collapse, growling at the shifting earth like it was something alive and hostile. Lucas stared at the fresh scar in the hillside, the truth slamming into him like a physical blow. The drilling wasn't just loud and annoying, it was tearing at the mountain's bones. That night they spread the blueprints over the old table, lit by a single lantern. The diagrams showed underground channels, pressure lines, and the house sitting like an anchor at a crucial point in the mountainside, designed to distribute stress and hold everything together. "If they break this," Mia said, tracing a crack line with one small finger, "the whole thing could fall." Lucas nodded, jaw clenched, "And we fall with it." Bear lay beside them, head resting on Lucas's knee, eyes half closed, but ears still tuned to distant tremors no one else could hear. "We can't just hide here," Lucas said finally. "We have to make them stop. We're just kids," Mia whispered, but there was more courage than doubt in her voice. Lucas looked from her to the blueprints, to Bear. "Then we'll be kids who don't shut up." The next day, they walked into town. The government office smelled like old coffee, toner, and tired people. Adults behind the counters glanced at Lucas and Mia the way people look at kids who show up alone, with a mix of impatience and practiced sympathy. "We need to talk to someone about the drilling in the mountains," Lucas said, keeping his voice steady. At first, no one took them seriously, but Lucas didn't back down. He laid the blueprints on the counter and explained how their grandfather had built the house as part of the mountain support system, how Bear had warned them away from collapsing ground, how every tremor felt sharper in certain places. Mia stood silent but steady, one hand wrapped in Bear's fur, the dog's eyes fixed on every adult who tried to dismiss them. Eventually, a county engineer wandered over, more out of curiosity than concern. He picked up the drawings with a bored expression that slowly shifted as he traced the lines. "Where did you get these?" he asked quietly. "Our grandfather built that house," Lucas replied. "If they keep drilling, the slope won't hold." The engineer didn't smile or pat them on the head. He just nodded, took the papers, and said, "Stay here." By sunset, inspectors had gone up the mountain with instruments and maps. They walked the same paths Bear had pulled them away from, felt the same soft, dangerous give under their boots, and matched each tremor to the pressure points on the old designs. The next day, the drilling stopped. The company protested, of course, but reports were filed, maps stamped, and someone finally wrote down in official language what Lucas and Mia already knew in their bones. The house mattered. The mountain was fragile, and some things couldn't be replaced if they were broken. A week later, a thin envelope arrived at the hidden door. Inside was a formal notice declaring the property a protected structural and historical site, recognized for its unique engineering and critical role in stabilizing the mountainside. Lucas read the words out loud, his voice shaking with something that felt very close to relief. "We get to stay," Mia whispered, like she was afraid speaking too loud might make it vanish. They didn't become rich. Their parents didn't magically come back. Life didn't turn into a perfect story. But for the first time since everything fell apart, they had something no landlord, no notice, and no company could yank away. A place that was safe, steady, and theirs. That night, Bear slept by the hearth, his body fully relaxed for the first time in weeks, no longer flinching at distant rumbles. The mountain was quiet again, like it, too, was finally allowed to rest. Snow began to fall outside, soft and slow, blanketing the trees in white. Lucas watched it drift past the narrow window and asked softly, "Do you think Mom and Dad would be proud of us?" Mia leaned her head on his shoulder. "I think they already are," she said. "And you, if you were in their place, 2 kids with nothing but a dog, a hidden house, and the truth, would you have been brave enough to stand up and make the world listen? If this story stayed with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more emotional stories that prove even the smallest voices with the right courage can protect something big."